Are you truly measuring your outcomes? Or are you just guessing them? Here's a daft example, but if I jumped in an ocean liner from Ireland and headed due west, aiming for America, that's cool. But if that compass was off by just 1 degree, a tiny, tiny portion, by the time I've got to the other side of the Atlantic, I'm about 100 kilometres off where I'd actually initially set up aiming for. That's a massive deviation just for a tiny variation. Think about this. At the moment, it's hot, it's lovely, I love this. Looking at something like weight loss. If I'm getting on my scales and my scales aren't particularly accurate, am I actually tracking what's going on? One of the situations I often ask my athletes to do is get on their scales 4 or 5 times over within a 10 to 15 minute period. Are the numbers that you're getting accurate? Are you getting the same response every time you get on? Because if you are, we know that those scales are pretty good. They're pretty reliable. Now, this is where we determine the accuracy. So, go down to the kitchen, pick up a couple of tins of baked beans or something. Now, what you've got to remember is that the 350 grams of beans is actually surrounded by a tin as well, which is probably another 150, 200 grams. So pick up a couple of tins of beans, stick them on your kitchen scales. Hopefully they're relatively accurate. Work out what they weigh, kilo, 1.2 kilos. Put those in your hands, get back on your scales. Do the scales move in that direction by exactly the same amount? Because again, if they do, we've now got something that's far more accurate. We are measuring something that's accurate. So at this time of the year, what we can start doing is we can start assessing sweat loss. And by assessing sweat loss, we can look at weight before and after a training session. We can look at our weight on a daily basis, and we can assess whether we need to be drinking more or less during that training session and more or less during the course of the day. So we're starting to put a system of measurement in place rather than just guesswork. And this is the same, regardless of whether you use a heart rate monitor, whether you use a GPS system, whether you're tracking your sleep hours. It's like, if we're just guessing what's going on, the ability to make small mistake upon small mistake upon small mistake compounds. So go back to that ocean liner. The guys on the boat recognise that the compass is out by 1 degree, but they compensate in the wrong direction. So now, instead of just being 100 kilometres off course, they're more like 300 kilometres off course because they've compensated the wrong way. That, over time, over a further distance, repeatedly done, gives us more and more error. And what we've got to do in your training is we've got to build a situation, a structure around you that reduces that error, that reduces that problem, that reduces that variation, that gets you the best possible outcomes. And that's what I'm here to do. So, hopefully you found that useful. Let's speak soon.